Welcome to E2's podcast. Today, we welcome Pete Brown, an elder at one of our partner churches, speaking into our lives about making plans for 2021.
Hey everyone, welcome to the E2 Effective Elders podcast. E2 is devoted to coaching your elder team to win by providing biblical and practical resources in authentic relationships. E2 wants nothing more than to equip you to move God's kingdom forward in the place you're serving Jesus. Visit us at e2elders.org and please share this good word with others.
Hey friends, thanks for joining us today for our E2 podcast, and our thanks, as always, to CDF Capital for investing in elders across the country and around the world, a valued partner of E2. Hey, today we welcome Pete Brown, and Pete is an elder in one of our partner churches, and how grateful we are, Pete, that you're going to join us for this particular podcast. Yeah. Pete also is the owner and operator of a company, a digital media marketing firm. And Pete's going to give to us some sound counsel and advice about 2021. Now, we're in this brief 6-episode series on the end of the year. We're in the final quarter, the fourth quarter. We're calling it the fourth quarter. And many times we look at year-end issues like year-end reviews, like year-end giving. Well, Pete's going to help us at not only looking at the year end, but more importantly, looking at the year to come. Mm-hmm. How do we form our thinking so that we don't live here in the current, but we reach for the future? So, Pete, what would you share with us in that regard?
Definitely. Well, you know, the first thing that comes to mind, and we were talking about this a bit offline, is the idea that I think a lot of people are accustomed to seeing November, December roll around and go, okay, I'm going to kick my heels up. You know, I'm going to take it easy. I'm going to roll out the rest of the year, and we'll see how things sort of hit in January of the following year. And I think that is not a good idea.
Right. We think too much about, hey, what are we going to do for Thanksgiving? Hey, what are we going to do for Christmas? Hey, for New Year's.
Yeah, and those are important. You know, I mean, having time to take care of yourself, get some mental health in, connect with your family, enjoy all of the customs that we enjoy. We want to do that because mental health is just going to help us all have a strong following year, of course. But sitting on your heels and waiting for that 2021 to roll around is not advisable. So, you know, in our context, I spent a lot of time in the fourth quarter reflecting on the first 3 quarters.
Oh, very good.
You know, how do we go? In January of 2020, what were my goals? What were my predictions? Now, if anybody could have predicted 2020 would have turned out like it did, well, then they're on the top of a mountain somewhere right now. But I didn't predict it. We didn't predict it. And so those are all things that you're able to reflect on, you know. And so as you're looking into 2021, especially coming on the outside of a once-a-century pandemic, we've got all kinds of things to think about.
And so as you think about not only as a business owner, but as an elder, you're a part of an elder team. And in a great church, in a good church, what would an elder team be thinking about for the next year? What primary points come to mind?
You know, there's 3 words that sort of come to my mind when I'm reflecting on the past, and those words are analyze, reflect, and evaluate. And I do those 3 words around these 3 key areas. In my mind, it's looking at goals. So goals from the past year. Let's reflect on those from 2020. Let's analyze them. Did we accomplish our goals? Were they good goals? And then let's evaluate moving forward. Because odds are your goals in January 2020 could look completely different than your goals for 2021. I also take those 3 words and I bounce it off of the idea of team. So at work, my team has very specific people with very specific talents. We all work together and we all complement each other so that way we can grow, we can thrive, not only in 2020, but also in 2021. Now we have a totally different set of circumstances now. So we have just been blessed to be able to add someone to our team who has a totally different strength area than anyone else. And for moving into 2021, that's what we need because we're in a totally different setup than we were in 2020. And then finally, so we need to look at what I call the atmosphere, and that's sort of the state of the world, right? We're a very different world than we were, again, in January of 2020. So I'm looking at things like, what are the new opportunities here? What are the new needs, really? And even in the context of an eldership, if folks haven't been able to return to your building since, March 13th or the week before, what are their needs? Are they being met? Do we need to get on a bus and drive door to door now? Or do we need to pivot in another creative, interesting sort of way to where we're still serving and still shepherding moving forward?
So, when you speak of analyze, reflect, evaluate, we're moving into a year where we have not yet been. So you're doing some forecasting, some dreaming. There's an old saying, to get to the fruit, you have to go out on a limb. And I can remember as a boy growing up, there were houses, yards around us where they had an apple tree, a cherry tree, whatever. And as boys, we would climb those trees and we would go out on a limb. And the further out we went, the less secure it was. So in that thinking, let's say at the local church level, your elder team, that 2021 has got to be a time when we take some risk.
Definitely. Well, and we've already seen that, one example that I think is almost normalized now, but think about the concept of live streaming, right? So I think about all the different partner churches E2 has, the different churches that we're fortunate enough to work with. And we've helped a lot of organizations just dip into live streaming or even pre-recording on video your service to reach those folks because you have to pivot.
Right.
And it's all very relative. Something like live streaming to one church may seem like a walk in the park because they've been doing it for 10 years already and it's good. But for maybe a smaller church that's going, well, we need to invest 10% of our budget into new equipment that we don't know how to use. And then we need to count on volunteers to learn how to use that equipment, or we need to contract somebody to come in. For them, that's going way out on a limb. That's a great leap. But we also know that we're supposed to lean into God at times like this, trust in Him, and it's all going to work out.
Right. So that risk-taking is not foolishness when we think, analyze, reflect, evaluate. We use our God-given mind, but then we also turn to God in trust. Some trust in chariots, some trust in horses, but we trust in the name of the Lord our God that we could marry those two thoughts together.
Yes.
We do all that we can, but then we believe that God, He has to do all that He can.
Absolutely. And beyond that, just so many people's comfort levels have been scrambled, and their confusion, and we're in an election cycle, and there's just so many things that our flock is being hit with from all different directions, from all different sources, and that means that my elder team, we need to consider that when we're together. We need to go, number one, how is everybody here? Because we have a group of men that are, all over the board just as much as our congregation is, and their comfort levels and their adaptation to this change. So how do we make sure that we're supporting each other, that we're keeping healthy, and then we're able to lead, and able to pivot and able to massage our old goals so that we're moving into 2021, we're addressing those new concerns.
So as an elder team, perhaps we could be looking at the new year, not only in terms of where we would hope the church will be going, but what about if we as a team thought about where we want to be on December the 31st of 2021 as a band of leaders, brothers leading the church? Have you thought about, because you certainly do that with regard to your company, where we want to be on December 31 of 2021. And that's not only in terms of who does what, but how we do with one another. You're talking about your company health. So similarly then, elder teams, do you think that there's value in elders talking about where we want to be on December 31?
Definitely.
What makes us have conversations like that, or what keeps us from having a conversation like that in the fourth quarter, making a plan for the new year in relational development?
Definitely. And I think a big part of that is that going out on a limb and also being willing to be uncomfortable and have conversations, because I do. The guys that I serve with, I respect them all. I value them all. I enjoy my time with them. But there's times when someone on the team has to, make a statement or question something that makes everybody a little uncomfortable in order to cross that. And I think in my business, we're doing that. At our last team meeting, we're going, all right, what do we want December to look like? And it's the same thing with eldership. In our case, we've just been back, over the last month or so, coming back to the sanctuary together. And so being able to go, wow, how's this last month been? We get a nice graph that shows attendance per service, and, they're collecting feedback. We're hearing what the congregation is having to say and all these sorts of pieces. And so, again, that's all part of, I think, evaluating what's happening. It's very baby step right now, too, I feel, because depending on how the governor's feeling or how the COVID numbers are, we're getting new instructions and we're getting new limitations. And so the concept of going, okay, here's how last month went, here's the new variable, how do we marry these together? And so now, more so even than probably the beginning of the year, elder teams, I feel, should be having these evaluations and these check-ins month by month to make sure that they're being aggressive about serving the congregation.
All right. So you just said serving the congregation. It would seem to me that serving the congregation, that's all wrapped up in the word relationship. As a shepherd of the flock, are you moving among the sheep? Are you in contact with the sheep? So again, let's bring that back to the elder team. To be a band of brothers, to be a different team on December 31 of next year, it might be that we have to stop doing some things to create margin to become someone. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
I think that there are times that we at E2, we discover elders are doing a number of things that aren't people related, people driven.
Sure.
Whether it's watching the budget, going over the financial statements, getting bids for the new roof, etc.
Sure.
And that's not the work of an elder. It's all about being a shepherd of the flock and being relational with one another. It's kind of like we have to do more. In order to accomplish more, we have to do less. To accomplish more in terms of what matters, like relational health, we have to do less of what is not important. We have to change our thinking about that.
Yeah. No, I think that's a great point, and I think that is, again, we're hearing a lot of new, fresh ideas right now. There's a lot of solutions, there's a lot of ideas, there's a lot of guesses, there's a lot of forecasts, but I think you have to be able to, as a team, respectfully hear those things, but be able to go, okay, what's within our mission, values, vision, right?
Yeah, vision, mission, values.
Yeah. I mean, what fits into our point and why we're here in the first place? How do we let things bounce off of that, that we don't need to give attention to? And how do we focus in on what we can accomplish that is going to fit the current atmosphere in what we're allowed to do, but also that is going to best, again, serve the congregation.
Right. How much time do you, either as an elder or a business owner, how much time do you spend looking at the past?
Probably, I would say probably 40% of my time is looking back, and probably 60% is looking forward.
Okay. And are you good with that?
Yes, in general. Yeah. I mean, I feel like there's so much to be learned from the past, and not only from my team of elders, my business, but I really value partnership and collaborations and just time meeting with other people at other churches, with other businesses, because you can learn so much by watching and collaborating and communicating with other people. So looking at other people's past as much as they're willing to share, as well as your own. Yeah.
Okay. I'm thinking of a couple of verses. Paul in Philippians 3, he said, forgetting this one thing I do, forgetting what is behind, straining toward what is ahead, I press on. And I don't think that meant that Paul completely forgot his past, but he was choosing not to live there. Learn from
Right,
it, learn from
absolutely.
it, but not live there.
Yeah.
The second verse I think of is 1 Chronicles 12:32. The sons of Issachar, they were men who had minds to understand the times, and they knew what Israel should do. See, that's future. They're able to look at the present, they're able to read the culture and say, this is what we need to do in response. So, as an elder team, I think that, looking back a little bit is good in the rear view mirror. But you know what? If I drove my car looking in my rear view mirror, I'm going to have a whole lot of problems in short order.
That is true. That is true.
So I think that as elders, the more we can lean into looking forward, especially in this final quarter, let's take that glance, a 40% glance or whatever, at what is behind in 2020. But we really need to lean forward 60% plus, looking at what lies ahead. And whether as a church, whether as an elder team, whether as an elder, where do I want to be at the end of 2021 in my walk with Jesus? What words would I use to describe me in my preferred future on December 31? And not only as an elder, but then as the entire elder team and as the entire church.
And I would also tag action onto that too, because I also know lots of people, lots of peers that they speculate, they forecast, they look, they think, they plan, and nothing happens. And again, I think we can really fall into that trap of it's the end of the year, it's Thanksgiving, it's football, fill in the blank, whatever your distraction is. But you still have to be motivated. You still have to be taking steps. You still have to be inching forward, even if it is only an inch at a time. Keep moving forward. Keep trying. Don't be afraid to try, and push each other.
You got to really, in every sense of the word, push play on the plan.
Definitely.
If we come up with a plan in the last quarter, got to push play on the plan.
Absolutely.
Well, Pete, thank you for words of wisdom here, and how grateful we are for just the great benefit that you bring to the kingdom of God, not only in the church that you serve as a shepherd, but for your partnership, Ashley Interactive, with E2. We are at a different place because of your investment in us.
It's been our absolute pleasure, and I can't wait to see what 2020 has, not only for E2, but for every partner church and every leader that's watching this video. And one other thing I'd like to mention, if you have made it this far in our podcast, do us a favor and leave us some comments below. Tell us, what are you doing to close out the fourth quarter strong? What questions do you have about how to close out the fourth quarter strong? Because I think I'll speak for Gary here. When Gary is a wealth of knowledge and he loves to share it. He's very willing to share it. So take him. If you have a question specifically for me, I'm glad to step in. But really, Gary and the E2 leadership, reach out to them through these comments or through the website to get those questions and those ideas start to percolate a little bit.
Yeah, share it, please. By all means, share our podcast with people. Follow us on Facebook, E2 Elders. We would be grateful if you could make our story known by sharing it with others. How grateful we are. Lead well.